What was a moment you said to yourself, dang, I actually am stupid? Me, hey, have you seen my glasses? Her, did you check the fridge? And there they are, just like the 100 other times I can't find my glasses. Why do I put them in the fridge? Because you want to look cool. I'm from the south and dated a girl when I was younger. First time meeting her mom, in a heavy New York accent. She asked me, "You like dogs?" I said, "No thanks. I'm not hungry." It took me way too long to realize she was talking about the 2 giant pets they had, which were literally in between us, and not freaking hot dogs. My dad is a prankster. When I was about 18 he tried to convince me that Kenny Rogers owned Kroger, and it was really convincing. It didn't help that we called it Kroger's with an S and not Kroger, which is correct. He kept saying. He even named it after himself. Kenny Rogers, K. Rogers. Kroger's. It made sense. But knowing my dad, my balls detector was going off, so I announced that I'll find out once and for all and call the local Kroger and ask. I called, asked for a manager. He gets on the phone and I ask if Kenny Rogers owns Kroger's and relay the argument my dad gave. The dude laughs hard for a solid 2 minutes. Thanks me for the best prank call he's had and hung up on me. 25 years later my dad still asks if I found out if Kenny Rogers owned Kroger yet. When someone told me they had the same name as me, I said, "Really? What's your name?" Needless to say, I felt like dying. This one time I was asked to ref a football match, was gonna flip a coin to decide which team would start. I asked for a rep from each team, asked the first guy whether he was picking heads or tails. He picked heads. I asked the other guy what he was going to pick. I asked the other guy what he was going to pick. Rim, please. Found a lost smartphone when walking somewhere. It was the exact same model as my own phone. Dropped it off at the nearest police station so they could contact the owner. Found out later that I had dropped off my own phone instead of the one I found. Given the level of stupid in some of these other stories, I was expecting you to say that you had found your own phone you didn't know was lost. I was friends with some twins. I said happy birthday to one of them. The other asked, "What about me, my dumbass?" "Oh crap, is it your birthday too?" "Yes." "Dang, that's crazy, you'll even have the same birth." "Oh dang, I am actually stupid." I said out loud, "Wouldn't it be crazy if Halloween fell on a Friday the 13th? It would be crazy because that's not how dates work." To be fair, it would be crazy. One particularly hazy morning I went to the cafe, paid for a cup of coffee, then promptly turned around and walked about a half mile down the block before realizing I never got my coffee. That sucks. Went in to buy gas once, decided to get a fountain drink, gave the clerk a $20 bill, got in my car and promptly drove away. Was only when I looked at my fuel gauge like 10 minutes later I realized what I did. Most expensive Dr. Pepper ever. In the army I was learning how Humvees worked. You have to lock the doors from the inside by slamming down a bar. It's called combat locking the door. Then you put a padlock on the driver door to secure the Humvee. My squad leader taught me a trick to reach through the window and slam down the bar instead of having to crawl through and reach the bar for each door. Then you just push the window up and you are done. I thought I was high speed when I learned this, so the next day when I was showing off my new trick, I locked all 4 Humvee doors faster than anyone. What I forgot was that you are not supposed to combat lock the driver door. This meant the Humvee was completely combat locked and could only be unlocked from the inside. I had to disassemble an armored Humvee door, which took hours and was roasted the entire time by everyone around. When you get out to grab coffee at the 7-Eleven and accidentally combat lock your Humvee, ugh, the worst. I was out clothes shopping when I spotted someone I recognized. We made eye contact and smiled at each other. It was just then I realized I was walking towards a full-length mirror. I used to work at a lovely deli around 2-3 years ago. Some of the beverages we offered was fresh, hot coffee. A gentleman walked in and asked for a coffee with lots of cream. "Not a problem," says I. I pull out the cream, take the lid off, and my boss reminds me to shake it first. "Not a problem." I think again, and shake the open, lidless carton of light cream, sending cream all over the floor, counter, fridge, etc. Everyone in the deli just stopped and stared at me for a few of the longest seconds of my life. Made me rethink so much of my life. I was talking on the phone with my mom. After a while I got frustrated because I couldn't find my phone anywhere. I told my mom about it and she replied, "Wait a second. I'll hang up and then call it so you can find it." I figured out how dumb I was as I was staring the ringing phone in my hand. We had a good laugh about it, but apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. Very similar story, but it was my mom yelling me places to look for the phone while I was on the phone to her. During a dental appointment, my dentist asked me to bite down on this little strip of like sandpaper. Not sure what it's called exactly, but she says okay now tap, 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 but while she said it, she motioned with her hands like this. What she meant was tap my teeth down on the sandpaper a few times. I took it as okay I'll tap my fingers together, and just mimicked her gesture. She was trying so hard not to laugh at me when I realized what I had done. The paper has a bit of color on it and when you bite down it leaves a temporary mark where your teeth connect. It is used to test your bite and check that things line up properly. I was preparing to run a 10k race. It was cool so I was wearing my running suit. Right before I go to the starting line, I'm about to take off the pants and I realize I'm not wearing any shorts underneath. Just Under Armour. I forgot to put them on. Somehow I managed to set a PR. It's become a running joke, no pun intended, that I make sure I'm wearing shorts. I once put on a hoodie cause I was too lazy to put on a bra and shirt and it was a cool day. Later the day warmed up and I took the hoodie off. I'm truly ashamed of how long it took before the man its breezy thought percolate. I was just out in Green Bay with the titties flapping for a good 5 minutes. In my kitchen I have one cabinet for bowls and plates and another one for cups. This hasn't changed since moving into the house 4 years ago. About 75% of the time, I open the wrong cabinets to get what I need. Even when I try really hard to focus on opening the right cabinet, I still regularly get it wrong. That was the final straw that validated my stupidity. You should put half the plates and cups in one cabinet, and the other half in the other cabinet. Then you're always right. My divorce finalized in early 2017. In late 2017, I got back together with my ex-wife. Sitting across from my ex-wife in a Mexican restaurant in late 2019 after our 1000th argument, I very calmly, but firmly, said we're the stupidest people on the freaking planet. She agreed. A couple days later she moved out. This conversation with my boss. I will be in late tomorrow. I have a doctor's appointment. Is everything okay? Yes. Why do you ask? Probably made you seem super suspicious. I was 10, at a basketball tournament out of the city. I told my mother I was going to a friend's room at the hotel we were staying at. He was 3 floors below the room we were staying in. I got in the elevator and pressed floor 6. The doors closed and nothing happened. I pressed floor 6 again. Instant panic shot through my body. Pure sweat dripping down my forehead. I was stuck in an elevator. Instantly, I had to crap. I sat on the floor for 10 minutes, accepting that this is where I was going to die. Not once did it occur to me to press the emergency button. As I sat there and went through how I would die, I figured I might as well press the door open button and see if I could reset the elevator or some magnificent plan. I pressed door open and the elevator doors opened, and there I was, on the 6th floor. I immediately remembered that I was staying on the 6th floor, and pressed the same button that was the floor I was staying on. That's why I didn't move. I needed to go to the 3rd floor. Look at the bright side, it would have been worse if you had pressed the emergency button. I put my phone in the freezer to charge. I remember having the thought that it would actually work. Several hours later, I couldn't find my phone. When someone called me, my brain refused to put together that the reason why my fridge was playing music was that my phone was in it. I just thought it was a feature I had missed. OMG, this one had so many levels. Forgot to check the oven before preheating. Set a forgotten pizza box on fire. Husband will never let me live it down. It was several years ago. Here's one. My wife threw a graduation party for me. She bought corn on the cob to make. I put it in the oven in the plastic grocery bags to store it for later. Hours go by, and I preheat the oven for something and go outside. I made plastic dipped corn on the cob for our guests. I was in my late 30s before I realized you can raise the lever on the toaster to lift up the toast and easily grip it, instead of playing operation with your fingers in the toaster slots. Say what now? Age, 64. My BF was weighing our suitcases the night before a flight. He did the classic, step on the scale and then step on the scale with the suitcase and do the math technique. One of the bags was a couple of kg over the limit, so I reassured him that by morning he will have lost a bit of weight, which might help get back under the limit. Didn't think that one through. I was working with my deaf co-worker and the store we worked at was having a sale on AirPod Pros. I forgot he wouldn't be able to use them and was miming to him that he should buy some. He just pointed to his ears and shook his head. Then to make it worse, I kept trying to sign to him that I was sorry and kept signing thank you instead. He at least got a good laugh out of it. I'm deaf. My boyfriend asked me what wireless earbuds I would recommend. I just stared at him and pointed to my hearing aid. I spent a good 45 seconds trying to open a can of beans with a can opener and couldn't for the life of me figure out what I was doing wrong. I remember thinking it had been a while since I'd opened a can, but really? Then I took a good, hard look at what I was doing and realized I was trying to open a can with a potato peeler. I had swapped a different engine into my car. Got around to the point where I was ready to do start up. Go to fire it up and nothing. Not getting any fuel pressure. Fuel pump was priming. Wasn't a leak anywhere. Tear the fuel cell apart. Pull the pump out. Rig up a bucket of fuel, test the pump. Seems to be working fine. Put the fuel cell back together. Must be a plugged filter. Pull the filter, can blow through it fine, shouldn't be stopping the fuel. Finally dawned on me after an hour of fricking around. I've been pulling apart the whole fuel system and there isn't ethanol on everything. Freaking fuel cell is empty. Put some fuel in the car and you wouldn't believe it, but it made fuel pressure. I'm a freaking idiot. Based on everything you said, I can assure you that you aren't an idiot. You sound like a damned wizard. I work in IT. I'm so convinced I can fix any problem on my computer. I almost never reboot the dang thing as a step one, despite the fact that that's what I always tell people to try first. Not me, but my sister had this realization when I challenged her confident proclamation that she wanted to sit at the back of the roller coaster to get a longer ride. She will get a faster ride down the hills though. Typically 3/4 to the back is the best place to sit if you want the best pops of airtime. I was at a young age, 8ish, when I thought the Star-Spangled Banner said Jose, do you see? That was a moment. Reading is fundamental, kids. I thought the line in this land is my land was from California to the New York Highlands rather than New York Island. I had been going to this campsite a few times in this really isolated Bureau of Land Management area by a lake. It was a great campsite, but you had to hike 1.5 miles with your tent and bags and everything through rocks and crevices and crap. It was a little bit difficult. So I get the idea to buy a small inflatable boat at Dong's Sporting Goods. Put all my crap on there and paddle across this huge lake. It was almost 2 miles across, so I would land right by the campsite. Turns out the boat was not that sturdy. All my crap fit in there, but the two oars were all plasticine and the sides were not very sturdy. Also, I forgot to pack a life jacket. That's the first time I thought, dang, I actually am stupid. Also, it was so windy on that fateful September day, just gusts of wind non-stop. I start rowing across the lake and right away my oar just breaks right in half. Frickin' plastic made in China thing just snapped. I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Only down to 1 oar? So I start rowing some more, but the boat was really made for 2 oars and it was going wonky with just one. I tried to row harder on one side and the frickin' oar just slipped right out of my hand into the water. Here's where I make the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't even think about it. I just jumped into the water to grab the oar. As soon as I leapt off the boat, the wind just took that frickin' boat flying across the water. I was like, no no no. And I swam after it, but it was getting swept away a lot faster than I could swim. And then suddenly it was gone. I'm out in the middle of this abandoned lake bobbing up and down in the waves with no life jacket. No nothing. I was like, well, today is the day I die. I couldn't do anything. I started screaming for help, but there were no people anywhere. No cars. Nothing. I tried to bob up and down in the water, but it was taking all my energy just to stay afloat and I wasn't getting anywhere. I said, well, old sport, Today is the day you die. I don't know why this experience turned me into F. Scott Fitzgerald, but on this day it did. I was thinking, might as well give up and drown. But then I realized I didn't want to die. I wanted to see my kids and I was in a fight with one of my brothers and I forgot to make up. My life was getting better and I was traveling and crap. Too many reasons to live. I told myself, be the boat, be the boat. The boat made it to shore. You can too. I started swimming as hard as I could and it was the toughest thing I have ever done in my life. My arms cramped, my legs cramped, my stomach cramped. When I finally hit the shore and could stand up, I just looked up at the stars and started crying. Altogether I had been in the water without any flotation more than 2.5 hours. Quite a featuring, but no matter what, that day I realized, dang, I actually am stupid. Was a bit distracted while unloading my shopping. Accidentally put my novel in the freezer and ice cream on the shelf. Didn't notice until the next day. By that time the ice cream was spoiled and the book was mildly iced over. This made me laugh on an empathetic level. Not me, but I work in a call center and just spoke to a woman a minute ago. I told her to have her husband call us before we close at midnight EST, in about 4 hours. She asked me, is that 4 hours my time? Since being concussed, I won't say I wasn't stupid before the concussion, but I know for sure I'm stupider now and it's a strange sense of loss. Open drawer to look for something. Don't see what I need. Start a close drawer. Spot thing I wanted in the first place. Reach hand back in while still closing drawer with other hand. Shut hand and drawer. Sometimes once you commit to emotion. Deployed. Heard word of an unidentified drone flying relatively close to our area. So I'm just sitting there staring up at the night sky. I really have never seen a drone during the nighttime, so I didn't really know what altitude to expect them to be flying at, or if they had lights on. So I was pretty clueless. This dim light catches my eyes as I'm scanning the sky and I focus in on it. The light seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I ended up calling it up over the radio for the guys I was working with to come outside and take a look. They came outside, looked at the light in the sky I was pointing at, looked back at me, and then called me a dumbass. It was clouds slowly drifting in front of the moon. So I think that one was a mix of my own stupidity and tiredness. I traveled to Paris by myself when I was 18. I stupidly assumed that my Canadian high school French would be sufficient to converse in French in France. I very quickly discovered that was not the case. This, however, was not the moment of stupid. The moment of stupid was when I was lost somewhere in Paris trying to find my hotel. I decided I needed to ask someone for help, but knew I needed to find someone who spoke English. So I walk up to a clerk and intend to ask, do you speak English in French? But my brain shorts and I get the stupid. So instead I ask this clearly French man in Paris, France, parlez-vous français? Do you speak French? He gave me the most dumbfounded and exasperated "oui" I've ever heard. Before I corrected myself. You should have replied, good, because I don't in français of course. I was shocked to learn that hearts and diamonds are always red cards and spade and clubs are always black in a deck of cards. I was told last night and felt so dumb. I've played poker. Ah, so that's their names in English. It would have been the mid to late 90s. Hanging out at a friend's, listening to records and smoking pot. Friend put on his new Green Day Dookie album. I definitely know the lyrics to the song Basket Case and have no issue with singing them with gusto. Me. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mom plays tricks on me. My friend. Did you just say mom? Me. Yeah. Reading my shampoo bottle and it said 30 uses. I thought of 1. Shampoo and 2. Emergency body wash before I thought of 3. I am an idiot. After a year or so of living in this condo and thinking that it sucked, I didn't have a fan or light over my oven. I pressed the wrong button on the microwave and voila, light went on. I'm ashamed to admit how long it took me to realize I had a microwave oven range unit. I once talked to my GF about the impressive records of Cristiano Ronaldo in football. Literally in her next sentence she asked, how old is Ronaldo? To which I stupidly replied, who's Ronaldo? I worked seasonally for a jewelry store in college. They had a trunk show scheduled for Halloween Day and I was told to dress up. So I dressed up in a shark costume only to realize upon arrival that they meant dress up. Fancy. A customer dropping mad cash on an anniversary ring for his wife laughed and asked if I'd drawn a short straw. Nope. Just turns out I'm a freaking idiot. You earned the belly laugh. Absolutely freaking out to a friend that I couldn't find my phone anywhere while talking to them on my phone. Yes, I was completely sober. Not me, but my sister. One time, she went to go put a glass of water in the microwave to help keep her food moist, but the glass was too tall. Instead of getting a smaller glass out of the cabinet, she poured half the water out into the sink. The glass still wouldn't fit in the microwave, and she realized after what she had done. This reminds me of a quote from a scientist documentary where they had to work at high altitudes with less oxygen in the air. He called someone at the base and said, "I've cut the line 3 times and it's still not long enough." One time I went to the pet shop to buy a hamster. I bought a huge cage for him, some food, but when I went home, I realized that I forgot to buy hamster. I was peeing in a urinal. Then I think I accidentally walked into the girls' bathroom. I couldn't leave because I was peeing, so I was just terrified some girl was going to walk in and see me. I finished peeing, went to the sinks, and realized how stupid I was. I found a spoon in my freezer and while thinking, why is this spoon in the freezer? I licked it. My tongue got stuck and I pulled the spoon fast off my tongue. I then bled for a while after as I had torn my tongue in several spots. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.